is my review of the AC/DC album Rock or Bust. It was released in 2014. It's produced by Brendan O'Brien. So this was their first album without Malcolm. He was replaced by their nephew Stevie Young on it. I think this album, so like when this album came out I wasn't really listening to a lot of AC/DC, but obviously I bought it. And I listened to it a couple times. For the most part I thought, like back then I was like, oh, okay, it's pretty good, not great, but I liked it for what it was. And then I hadn't really listened to it very much until recently, kind of getting ready for this review. And so watching like some other people's videos about it, I tends to see most people like tend to rank it pretty low, which I understand. I don't really think it's a bad album. Like when it came out, I thought I liked it kind of better than Black Ice. I'm not really sure if I do or not though. Like thinking about them, they both kind of have their advantages and disadvantages. So I'm not really sure where I would place those two albums as far as like ranking them. So that's definitely something I'm gonna have to think about quite a bit before I do my ranking AC/DC albums videos. This one at least is kind of short, so it has that going for it, because like one of the problems I had with Black Ice was that it was kind of so long that some of the songs, it's like I couldn't pay enough attention to some of the songs because they just kind of get lost in so many songs that sound similar. That's not as much of a problem here, but some of these songs are just kind of not that memorable. I think this album sounds pretty good. I kind of wonder if a little bit of its bad reputation has to do with like how much crazy stuff happened on the tour after the album was released, because like I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's really significantly worse than Black Ice, but it's not like one of their best albums either. So the first song, Rock or Bust, I think was one of the singles. I think it's a good opening song. I like the guitar on it. I think Brian sounds pretty good on the song. I think he actually sounds pretty good on this whole album, which something I'm going to talk about when I get to the new album Power Up, is I actually think he sounds better on this album than he does on their newest album Power Up. And I'm not sure if that's production or what it is exactly. And I thought he sounded better on Black Ice than he had on Stiff Upper Lip, and I think he sounds a little bit better on this album than he did on Black Ice, so I think he sounds pretty good here. But I think like as a whole I kind of really like the production of this album. I think that's one of the things that kind of stuck out to me when I first listened to it. I was like, I really like the way this album sounds, but the songs aren't the best. So anyway, the second song, Play Ball, was the first single. This one's actually a song that I like. I think it's pretty catchy. I think it's got some cool guitar parts. The third song, Rock the Blues Away, which also is a single, I guess, which I don't really listen to the radio, so I didn't really hear any of these songs when they came out that way. I just heard them when I listened to the album. And it seems like kind of a poppier song. One of the songs where Brian sounds like he's like kind of singing more than his typical kind of like yell sing thing that he does. But it's a pretty good song, and it kind of seems like they did put the three like best songs right at the front of the album. Though that's something I noticed, because like the three first songs were all singles, and after that it does kind of drop off a little bit. The fourth song, Misadventure, it's kind of not really one of my favorite songs in the album. Like it's not bad, it's just like kind of okay. The fifth song, Dogs of War, is better than that song, I think. It's also, I think, a lot better than the Pink Floyd song with the same name. The Pink Floyd song, Dogs of War, I've always thought was pretty horrible. So it's kind of cool to have a decent song called Dogs of War, I guess. The sixth song, Got Some Rock and Roll Thunder, is another one that's pretty catchy. Uh, and then the seven song Hard Times. It's kind of a short song, and it's not bad. It's got some like cool guitar parts, but it's also just kind of forgettable with how short it is. The eighth song, Baptism by Fire, is one that I liked. It was one of the faster songs, so probably one of the better songs in this like second half of the album. The ninth song, Rock the House, is another song that was really short, and also not bad, but just also kind of forgettable. The 10th song, Sweet Candy, is pretty good. Had some cool soloing by Angus, but just not really like a whole lot to say about it. It was okay, but not like really one of my favorite songs by them. And the 11th and final song, Mission Control, isn't bad for a closing track, but definitely not one of their like more memorable ones. It's just kind of one of those songs that like while it's on, I enjoy it, but then as soon as it's over, I forget like I can't even remember now what it sounds like. So I would probably give the album as a whole like a 3 out of 5, which I think is the same I gave Black Ice. Like I said, for me, these albums are kind of really similar in that like I don't know which I like better than the other. They've both kind of got their advantages and disadvantages, so it's going to be really hard to rank those two. But they're definitely towards the bottom end of the AC/DC albums for me. But that doesn't mean they're bad albums, because I think even AC/DC's worst album, Ballbreaker, I don't think is that bad, or the album that I think is worst of theirs. Which is a spoiler for my ranking thing. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad album. I think maybe it's got a little bit worse of a reputation than it deserves, actually, even because of all the crazy stuff that happened on their tour with Phil not being on the tour, and Brian having to leave and being replaced by Axl Rose and all that stuff. Certainly kind of like a crazy time in the band's career, and then also with Malcolm not being on the album for the first time. But I mean, I think it sounds good. I think they play good. I actually think Phil plays pretty well on it, even with all the stuff that would go on later. But yeah, not a horrible album, just not one of their best. I think maybe a little bit better than what people give it credit for, but the best songs are kind of stacked right at the front of the album, and then it kind of gets a little bit forgettable towards the end, but it's short, so that's not really a horrible thing. So I wouldn't recommend checking it out as your first AC/DC album, but if you get a lot of their earlier ones and still want to keep listening to them, it's definitely not bad for one of their more recent albums.